What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my May wrap up. Hello everybody. Sorry this angle's weird. I just couldn't sit on the floor any longer. My feet were falling asleep making that thumbnail, so we're just gonna deal with it. If you're new here, I do all my wrap-ups in the reread, rewrite, burn tag format, and I have all the titles that I read in May on little slips of paper in this little skull. I pull out 3 at a time and I say whether I would reread, rewrite, or burn the book. So it's basically fuck, marry, kill, but make it bookish. I've been doing this for over 3 years now and I love it, never looking back, because it's the only fun way that I can fathom doing wrap-ups. Pardon the interruption. I'm here to talk about the sponsor for this video, Zinf eyewear. I have worked with Zinf before for years now. Any glasses that you see in my videos, they're most likely from Zinf because I love them so much. They're such great quality, and they sent me another pair of prescription glasses that I was able to customize to my liking. I believe I put blue light filters on these, anti-scratch, anti-glare. We will try them on together. I love these boxes that they come in because they're so convenient. I also use these for jewelry when I travel. Each pair of glasses comes with this little cloth. Their prices are so much better than retail prices, even with all the stuff that you add onto it. I will link the website and my discount code down below. My discount code is agaton, capital L2. I'll have it on the screen as well as the description, and you can get 25% off your entire order with that code at checkout. But these are the glasses I got. Ooh, I have contacts in. Let me move my bangs away so I don't look like Edna from The Incredibles, like I always say. Wow! I can't really see with my contacts, but I kind of love how they fit on my face. I don't have too many large frames. I feel like I'm going cross-eyed. Whew. If you look on their website, they tell you what size they are, like small, medium, large. There's also a try-on feature where you can upload a selfie and put the glasses on your face to see how they look. But these are the Daria glasses in black. I love the shape of them, how it's like a cat eye and it's black and gold. And like I said, I put blue light filter on them because I'm on the computer for my day job and for YouTube. These are so comfy. They fit my face so well. I love them. I did lose my black frame glasses when Joey's car got stolen, so I needed a replacement, so this was perfect. So thank you so much, Zinf, for working with me once again. Like I said, I'll leave the website and my code in the description below if you're interested in a new pair of glasses. They have sunglasses as well. They have glasses for men, prescription and non-prescription, so I'll link all that down below. Now we can continue with our regularly scheduled programming and get on with the rest of the video. So, okay, we're just gonna go right on into it, into the recap. That takes the longest, to be honest. So, May. Let's just do a little overview before we get into it, actually. May was better than April, mentally, just by a little bit. But then there was also Joey's car situation. We had a couple weekend getaway, road trip things. It was our 2-year anniversary. There were a few things mentally. It was just on and off. It came in waves, to say the least. I got a decent amount of reading done regardless. I read 28 books in May, so that's pretty good. That's really good, actually. It was a pretty good reading month. 6,848 physical pages, give or take some, because so I only keep track of physical pages, again, if you're new here, because it's easier. It's just easier, long story short. But if I'm in the middle of a reading challenge, 24-hour readathon, whatever, any sort of challenge I do, then count audiobook pages and take the time to calculate the percentages and all that shit. It's just easier to do physical only. But either way, 6,848, that's a lot of pages. Number of BIPOC authors I read were 15 out of the 28, which is one more than 50%, so that's great. Yeah, so I guess it was a pretty good reading month. It's just, I think it felt like it wasn't because I had a lot of mediocre books. I had a lot of 3 stars in a row. I think that's why I felt weird about it. But my best book, this was also the month of romances and yeehaw. The yeehaw, alternative, cowboy, whatever you want to call it, side of my personality re-emerging. She hasn't come out since I lived in Indiana for 3 years. Been listening to more country. I started reading cowboy romances. I started buying cowboy romances. I bought cowboy boots. I went horseback riding. Got a hat whilst horseback riding. So we're in it. Because of April, my brain hasn't recalibrated to my usual horror reading self, just the spooky vibes. Give me till like August-ish, okay? To like find my way back. Because we're circling back slowly but surely. I'm sprinkling in my usual reading taste here and there, but I've read a lot of romance recently, and I'm still in the mood for romances. There are a bunch of other genres in this stack as well, but my best book of the month was a romance. It was Better by Far by Hazel Hayes. 5 stars, phenomenal, auto by author for sure. Out of Love was one of my all-time favorite books as well. Hazel Hayes just has a way, I feel like she's genuinely been in my brain or like has read my diary at some point. She is in there. She knows all the nitty-gritty details of my life. Like, it's crazy. Both books that I've read by her, this is her newest book, it came out a couple months ago. Both books, I was like, this is scary how accurate it is to like my life, my past, my experiences, my feelings, my thoughts. It's insane. Like, her characters have the same brain as me. She has the same brain as me for certain parts, especially like when it comes to thoughts whilst being in a relationship, or some of the arguments that were in this book, like I've had them in the past, almost verbatim. It's wild. But this is about a couple who go through a breakup and then they're stuck on a lease together, so they decide to ride it out, but they alternate weeks at this apartment. The girl stays at like her friend's house or her dad's. They just like figure it out. It's a toxic cycle for sure. It's one of those relationships which been there, done that. So again, super relatable. I tabbed the shit out of it, and there's a good amount of character growth. There's also a lot of grief in this, not only when it comes to a significant other in terms of like losing them because, you know, a breakup, but there's also parental grief, and there's a backstory about that and about past experiences, family secrets, betrayals, etc. This is a heavy book, but it's really about the characters with this one. It says it's a story about love and loss, hope and heartbreak, and the healing to be found in life's little limbos, those in-between spaces where you are no longer who you were and not yet the person you will be. So it's really about this woman figuring herself out, navigating life after this breakup, because they were together, I believe, for 8 years or something like that. Worst book of the month was Mosaic by Catherine McCarthy. I think it's McCarthy. I read this for my 4th episode of my Do Your Worst series. In May, I featured my friend Kitty from Spicy Cats Reads, so I read some of her worst books, and spoiler alert, Mosaic was one of our agreements. I actually gave it 1 star. It was just so boring. I read it on my Kindle. I actually bought it for like, I don't know, $7, I think. Maybe it was $5. I don't know, whatever. I bought it just for this video, and unfortunately it let me down. It's about this girl who got hired to like restore this stained glass window. Like I said in my vlog, I learned way too much about the process of a stained glass window from start to finish, like too much. I could have gone my entire life without knowing that much about it. Like 60% of the book was her preparing for this project and barely even doing the project, and then I don't even remember the creepy parts. I think there was one creepy part that I was like, whoa, but then it was a dream. I was like, really, we couldn't just roll with that energy. So every month I try to read a nonfiction, and I've been successful thus far for the past 1.5 years. In May, I read The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. This is from one of my subscribers, Hi. She replaced my copy that was stolen from Joey's car. I've said it multiple times. I'm just so grateful. Like, that was such a sweet gesture. Like, she literally bought it the day that Joey's car got stolen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed reading more of Amanda Montell's writing because I did read Cultish and loved that one as well. This just had a lot of social media and stuff, which was fine because it was necessary to the subject matter, but I just don't like reading about that. I didn't learn as much as I did in Cultish, but at the same time, I also gave Cultish 4 stars. My favorite chapter in this book was shocker, the one about the toxic relationship that she was in. My favorite quote was her saying that a toxic relationship is just a cult of one. That hit home pretty fucking hard. This mentions some culty things, but mainly it's about human tendencies to not only overthink, but just like a bunch of cognitive biases when it comes to worshiping celebrities. There was a section about watching people's journey to death, because there was a point where I was even watching this girl, Talia Joy. She was like 13 and she had cancer, and she had the best makeup looks. She wore like bright purple lipstick, and I forgot about her, which is so bad to say, but yeah, I don't remember life before BookTube, so I don't remember what I watched on YouTube before then, but I did, and she was mentioned in this. Taylor Swift is mentioned in this. There's talk about like the halo effect, manifestations. It's fascinating. It's like a fun psychology textbook, as I said in my vlog. Every month I try to do Buzzwordathon, which is Kayla from Books and Lala's annual reading challenge, and this month the buzzword was every. I started an arc that had that word, but I ended up DNFing it, so I listened to the audiobook for this YA contemporary book written in verse called Everybody Looking by Candace Elo. I gave that one 3 stars. I realized this month that I don't like books that have hobbies. Hyperfixations isn't the right word. It's more like the book is hyperfixating on these hobbies. I don't like books that center around just that hobby or like have a bunch of chapters about that hobby. Like, I love hobbies. I think hobbies are fascinating, and I love how diverse, how much, you know, of a wide variety you can have in terms of hobbies and how there are endless options. All this to say, Everybody Looking had dance in it. That's when I like kind of checked out, but I really did enjoy the themes discussed in this. It was very similar to The Poet X, so if you love The Poet X, you'll probably love this, the book by Elizabeth Acevedo. It had themes of coming of age, but also growing up in a religious household and like trying to break out of that. It also talked a lot about your body changing as you grow older and how society views you and your body, things that aren't under your control. Enjoyed that one. Next, we have a fairly new category called the Coffin Covers. This is a little challenge that I have that's kind of inspired by Buzzwordathon, but instead of titles, it's in the covers. It's Patreon only, so I have this like graphic, and yeah, this was the first month that I did this challenge. In May, we were supposed to look for books with flowers on the cover. I was actually able to accidentally read 3. Another book that I read for the Do Your Worst episode was Paradise Rot, and there's a flower on the cover. I gave this one 4 stars. I really fucking enjoyed this one. If you haven't seen the vlog yet, it'll be linked down below, but I'm gonna say my ratings in this video. This was really weird. I have never read about pee more in a book in my life, and then ever since I read this book, I've seen pee, urine in books I've read following this one, so love that trend-setting moment. But this is a sapphic, weird horror. There's this girl who ended up living with this woman who had some weird shit going on. I don't want to accidentally give away too much because it is a really short book. But this book also said the word mezzanine like an infinite number of times. Like, if you took a shot for the number of times mezzanine came up, you would be rolling in your grave. And then Funny Story ended up having flowers as well, so this was an accidental reading goal check off, but I gave Funny Story 5 stars. I just uploaded the vlog today where I read this one, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'm glad Emily Henry redeemed herself after Happy Place. Yes, I gave it 4 stars, but it wasn't her best. It would have been a 3 if certain things weren't so relevant at that point when I was reading that book. Either way, this is now second on my tier ranking for Emily Henry books under Beach Read. Daphne's a librarian, so the library was very prominent in this book, which I appreciated. Because I also work at a library, if you were unaware. Everyone compares Miles to Nick Miller from New Girl. I feel like if no one told me that, I wouldn't have seen it, but I also don't visualize shit when I read. So they were both just dumped by their partners because those partners wanted to get together, so they like swapped partners, if that makes sense, because then they'd started living together and the romance happens from there. But there's a lot more depth in this for sure, so check content warnings. Daddy issues get triggered in this. I speak from experience. Third book was my Full Moon Book Club pick, which I read in the same vlog as the Funny Story one, so check that out. I'll have that link down below. But we read Dragon Fruit for Full Moon Book Club. This was the last public live show for my book club for many reasons. Check my community tab for further explanations, but I'll link this live show down below. I ended up giving this one 2 stars, and that's all I'm gonna say about it because I feel redundant because I have a vlog and I have a live show for it, so I'm kind of done talking about this book, but it does have flowers on the cover, so there's that. I also try to read on my Kindle every month, not only because I have Kindle Unlimited, but I also ended up having to buy a new one because, again, it was stolen. So I'm like, let me, you know, get the most for my money. So I read 3 books on Kindle this month. I have the physical copy for this one because I always buy one for Joey for our Unmuted and Unhinged sprints that I do on Patreon, where we read and live react to an extreme horror novella in one sitting. People treat it as regular sprints sometimes too. That'll all be in my Patreon link down below. This month we read Horror House of Perversion by Carl John Lee. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. It wasn't what I expected. For such a short book, it dragged way too much. I think I viscerally reacted like less than a handful of times. There were a couple like gory scenes, but it was boring. It's a bunch of old college friends who reunite and go to this house and creepy shit starts happening. I don't recommend. We're unhauling this. I also read Mosaic on Kindle, as well as Puzzle House by Duncan Ralston, which I read for the Do Your Worst video as well. I gave Puzzle House 3 stars. That one is an escape room book, which I've never read before, and I thought it was really fun. The first 2 kills were my favorite. I reacted a lot to that book. It was just like at the end and like a little bit throughout, it got a little bit too woo-woo for me because it talked a lot about like mythology and spirituality, and I was like, it just didn't fit with the book's vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I love a good mythology story when my brain decides to understand it, and I think spirituality stuff is also fascinating, but like within this book, it felt weird. Hence the 3 stars. I did not read a 500+ page book, which is a loose goal anyway, so whatever, but Book of the Month / Aardvark books. I read Dragon Fruit, and for Aardvark, I read You Know What You Did by KT Wynn. I vlogged this for Patreon during our Layer Readathon. We do have monthly readathons over on Patreon as well. In May, our theme was reading as many Asian authors in one weekend as we could, and I picked this one up on a whim. It's a debut thriller. I liked that the twist was a bold move. It was a little bit cliche. It was actually very cliche, but I just had a strong feeling that the author was like, you're gonna think it's cliche, so they're not gonna expect it. And that's exactly what happened. It gets kind of confusing sometimes. It's a very complex book. A bunch of my patrons said that OCD rep is very accurate and well done. Mental health rep in general is great in this book. It's a really fast read. Chapters are short. There's an annoying, angsty teen. This one also has grief, parental grief, so beware of that. There's a lot of trauma that goes on, a toxic mother-daughter relationship, a lot of like psychological things going on. Oh, also trigger warning for animal death. I did not read a classic, but I did read an ARC. I'm trying to up my NetGalley score, even if the book has already come out. I'm still counting it as an ARC. How many times did I just say ARC? I got an ARC of Diavola by Jennifer Thorne, and that's apparently how you say it. I kept saying it incorrectly, as well as everybody else, until we listened to the audiobook. I actually read this for Gabby's Book Club. I will link our live show down below. It was super fun. This is a vacation horror, kind of gothic vibes, but it's also like cozy comedic horror most times. Also, every character is unlikable as hell, especially the main character. They all go to Italy at this haunted villa. Her family is just horrible to her, but she's also unlikable and annoying. There's creepy shit that goes on. I recommended this for fans of The September House and also Delicious Monsters by LaSalle Sambury. I gave this 3 stars. It just wasn't what I expected. Based on this cover, I wanted creepy. It did have bathroom scenes, which always creeps me out, but the rest of it was just meh to me, which is really sad because this was on my 24 for 2024, which is great because I was able to check it off, but it was a highly anticipated read. 3 stars is still fine. Okay, let's go into the wrap up, shall we? That was way too much. Let's grab our first 3. Okay, Puzzle House by Duncan Ralston. Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison. Oh, I read that one on Kindle too. Wow, I read on my Kindle a lot. I did have a physical copy of that book until it was stolen. I ended up just buying it on Kindle because it was the last book by Rachel Harrison that I had to read. And then the 3rd book is Diary of a Void. I would reread Bad Dolls because I love Rachel Harrison. My favorite story in this one was called Goblin, and then the last story would be my second best, which was Bad Dolls, and then the first 2 were kind of forgettable, to be honest, but I gave Bad Dolls 3 stars. I would reread it. It's a short story collection. I would rewrite Puzzle House to take out all the parts that I talked about that didn't fit with the rest of the story's vibe, and then Diary of a Void I would burn. Are we surprised? It's a translated Japanese fiction about this woman who fakes her pregnancy. I didn't know that going into it, but I still continued on because I just listened to this on audio, so I was like, okay, it's a quick audiobook. And I was like, okay, if she's faking her pregnancy, then there shouldn't be any graphic birthing scenes that I would hate, you know? So I persevered. I gave it 3 stars. It was well written, and I liked the commentary on society and how they treat people differently. She faked her pregnancy because she wanted to see how people would treat her, and like at work she didn't want to do this thing, so she decided to just lie on a whim, and then she just kept it going. And it's one of those like weird lit fic books, so if you like that subgenre, I would try it out, but I would burn it. I would never read that again for obvious reasons. The next 3: Love Sickness by Junji Ito. This was a reread for me. Lunar New Year Love Story. I got this book from the library. That was was a graphic novel. And then Chlorine by Jade Song, which was my Lair Bloody read that we had a discussion for with my Dracula and Carmilla patrons, which was super fun. I'm actually working on the spoiler-filled vlog for it right now because I do spoiler-filled vlogs. This is the first month that I switched over from doing spoiler-filled Full Moon Book Club pick vlogs to spoiler-filled Bloody read vlogs. So that's exciting. I would burn Lunar New Year Love Story because it's a graphic novel. I've read plenty, and I gave that one 4 stars. It was a cute, fun time. It was about this family who believed they were cursed when it came to true love, and this girl who loves Valentine's Day, and then something happened, and then she started hating it. And then it's basically her finding her way back to loving Valentine's Day and loving love and falling in love herself. And I guess it's also like coming of age. She's finding things out about her family that she was lied to about for years of her life. So that was really good and fun, and there was some magical realism in it as well. I would reread Lovesickness over and over. I would reread Junji Ito until I die. This is an obsession story about this town with this guy who walks around on this certain street, and he like basically tells you your misfortunes and drives you to insanity essentially. Some people were driven to death. It gets dark. It's a story collection though, which are my favorites by Junji Ito, and I gave this one 4 stars the second time as well. And then I would rewrite Chlorine. Like I mentioned earlier with the whole hobbies thing, this one focused a lot on swimming, and I would just like rein it in a bit, but I understood that I guess maybe I would even choose a different hobby because I don't really like water in books, but that was the whole point. So like if you change that, it would change the whole book. So I don't really know. I really love this book. I gave it 4 stars. Had a lot of commentary about being Asian and about being a woman and all the like societal and familial pressures that come with all that. And then there's this whole thing with mermaids in this. It's a weird literary horror type of book, which I love. It's her journey through being obsessed with swimming and dealing with all these pressures and expectations from her family. There's also familial drama and familial trauma in this. There's a lot packed in. Again, check content warnings because there's a lot of like misogyny and racism in this as well. So next 3, we have When I Arrived at the Castle by Emily Carroll, which was another graphic novel that I got from the library. We've got The Scarlet Alchemist by Kylie Lee Baker, and then Homegoing by Ya Jassy. I would reread Homegoing because I read this audibly. I didn't give this book a fair chance, I don't think. This is a very heavy book in terms of subject matter, in terms of like triggers and just the hardships that these people go through. Realistically, I probably wouldn't reread this because it was hard to read, not just in its contents, but also I was kind of confused. I feel like the synopsis kind of misleads you because it sounds like you're following 2 sisters, but you're really following like a bunch of different characters, and each chapter is long as hell and a different character and a whole different storyline. This book talks about slavery, misogyny, there's a shit ton of triggers. These characters go through a lot. I gave this book 3 stars, but that's on me. That's not on this book. I mean, I feel so bad giving this 3 stars, but the audiobook narrator too was a little bit monotonous, which is sad because like I know the writing is impeccable. I know the story is really important. I think this is a book that should be like required reading, I feel like, because there's a lot in here in such a short book too. I also don't like the copy I have. It's a library discard, so it's like all beat up, has all the library stickers on it still. So I would rewrite The Scarlet Alchemist. I gave this one 3 stars as well. See what I mean? I had a shit ton of 3 stars in May, but I've been reading this since like, I don't even know, way before October of last year, because this came out October 3rd of last year, I think, if I remember correctly. And I had the ARC sent to me by one of my subscribers. Thank you, Catherine. And I failed her and didn't read it until May of 2024. I had to like resort to the audiobook. I was just not engaged. I don't know why. I liked the beginning when it talked about all the necromancy stuff, but then towards the end I was like, I really don't care anymore about this story. But I do want to read the sequel because I love Kylie Lee Baker and her writing in The Keeper of Night duology, but I don't know. If I read the sequel, I'm gonna probably have to reread this because I genuinely only remember like the first few chapters because I read them twice. It was just hard to stay engaged. I couldn't even tell you what the plot is, to be honest with you. So I don't even know how I would rewrite it. I guess more body horror because that's what kept me intrigued because it had that energy in the beginning. I thought it was gonna be that throughout the whole book, you know, but sure, let's go with that. And then I would burn When I Arrived at the Castle, even though I gave it 4 stars. I love Emily Carroll's illustrations and her spooky stories. The art style is unmatched when it comes to graphic novels and like the color scheme. This one is a vampy, very short graphic novel about this other creature that arrives at the castle, hence the title. It's a sapphic graphic novel, which I enjoyed. There are some graphics. There are some graphic illustrations in there, but every illustration was beautiful. All right, next we've got Paradise Rot by Jenny Haval, Diavola by Jennifer Thorne, and then Pet by Akweke Emezi. Pet I would burn. I didn't really like the whimsy of it. I just wasn't into it, and I love Akweke Emezi's writing. That was only my second book by them, but for June, actually, we're going to be reading The Death of Vivek OG for Full Moon Book Club, and we'll be discussing on Patreon and everything, but feel free to read with us, even if you're not in the lair, and you can just like tell me your thoughts or whatever. I love Akweke Emezi's writing. It's just this one read a lot younger, and I didn't feel invested in the story. Again, I know it's an important story. I'm sure there are like metaphors for the creature in that book. There's trans rep, and it's coming of age as well, but I don't know. I didn't really like the plot line of that story, I guess. So I would burn that. I gave that one 3 stars. I would reread Paradise Rot, hands down. Had a fun time. It's super short, and I'm sure I missed some things because I read it so quickly. And then I would rewrite Diavola, just make it creepier. Less cozy comedic, more creepy gothic. Okay, moving on. The good part about having the recap so long in the beginning is that when we go through them, we don't have to talk about all of them. Okay, here we go. Next we've got Verity by Colleen Hoover. Unfortunately. We have Everybody Looking by Candace Elo, and then Ling Hun. I do remember the author, I just don't want to butcher it. Is it Ai Jiang? Fuck, man. Okay, listen. Do I say my rating? Okay, so I read Verity for a Patreon only vlog for Carmilla's. I'm not gonna say whether I enjoyed it or not. I didn't even rate it on Goodreads, but my Carmilla patrons know, and I'm gonna keep it at that, and I'm gonna burn this because it's Colleen Hoover and I don't support her. I just read it because I own it. It was a gift. I didn't want to get rid of it. I did give Layla 5 stars, so if that tells you anything about anything, I don't know. I don't know, does it? I don't know why I'm being so like weird about it, but yeah, I just don't want to talk about it for longer than I have to. This is gonna be the last Colleen Hoover book I read because I've just heard too much about her, and I would burn it, but I'm still keeping this on my shelves because it was a gift from my friend Savannah from Riveting Reads. If you're wondering, the only books I've read by Colleen Hoover are Verity, Layla, and Ugly Love. I would reread Ling Hun. This was a little short horror once again, and I gave this one 3 stars, but I feel like I either read it too quickly or I was a little too distracted. I think I was in the middle of a reading challenge or something. Oh, it was my How I Read 200 Books a Year with a 9-to-5 vlog. So I'll link that down below so you could hear my thoughts. This was just like a creepy haunted house story. There were some creepy parts, but again, I felt like I was super distracted with this one, so I would reread that to see what I missed. Everybody Looking, I would rewrite to just take out the parts about dance. I feel like there was maybe one crucial moment involving dance, but other than that, I would change that, I think, because I checked out in those parts. Next 3. Funny Story by Emily Henry. Told y'all this was a romance month. Done and Dusted by Lila Sage, and Happiness Volume 2, which is a manga. I read that on Kindle Unlimited as well. I keep forgetting a bunch of Kindle books. I guess I don't write them down right away, and then I forget about them. I would burn Happiness Volume 2. It was good. I gave that one 3 stars, and I am continuing with the series. I read Volume 2 and Volume 3 this month, so in June I'll be reading Volume 4. It's just another manga from a series that I enjoy, but there are so many out there, so would burn that. Would reread Funny Story, hands down. Done and Dusted I would rewrite, take out the few cringy moments. Also, sugar as a term of endearment was used way too much during the sex scenes, also making those cringy, but I gave Done and Dusted 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I did prefer Swift and Saddled. I read that in June, currently June 5th as I'm filming this. I read it the first day of June, but this was really good. This has good mental health rep, just your cowboy small town romance, you know? Another thing I would rewrite is to make the writing competition scene longer, because it was literally like a page long, and that's what the book was kind of leading up to the majority of the time, other than the romance, and I wanted more of that. It was fun. It was riveting. Next 3. King of Sloth by Anna Huang, The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell, and then Happiness Volume 3. So for the same reasons as Volume 2, I'll be burning Happiness Volume 3 just because it's easiest. It's a vampy manga. I forgot to mention that. so of course I'm liking it. Happiness Volume 3, I also gave 3 stars. I think we started following a different character in that one. I just need to get back into it and just binge the rest because I forget everything. But then when it comes to my wrap-ups, that's why I don't binge manga series, because when it comes to my wrap-ups, I'm just like,
yeah, I don't remember, but overall it's a vampy manga, you know?
I don't really like analyze manga. I just read them for funsies. You know, I obviously count them towards my reading goal because they're books. Books are books are books. Other than Junji Ito, I think Junji Ito's the most that I'd like look into more in depth, but okay, I don't know why I'm going to that. Would reread King of Sloth, gave this 5 stars. It was my only 5-star for a while until Funny Story. As you can see, no tabs have been tabbed because, again, this was stolen. This was also from Thai. This is a replacement copy. Oh, wow, that's weird. Yeah, so these came together. So this is a billionaire romance series, Love Anna Huang's writing. So I knew it was gonna be 5 stars. All 4 of them so far have been 5 stars for me. It's probably my favorite romance series of all time. So do with that information what you will. But this is about Xavier / Javier Castillo and his publicist, Sloan. He is a trust fund baby, so he lacks ambition. He's just, you know, bit-bopping through life. And Sloan is the workaholic, type A, neurotic, always has to be working type thing. So I like that little switcheroo moment because the other 3, the guy was kind of like the workaholic. So I love that dynamic. I just, oh, I'm so mad my annotations are gone. So I would definitely reread this to tab it again, I guess, because fuck, man. I used my like gold glittery tabs on that one too, and it was like perfectly matched to this cover's color scheme with the blue, and it makes me so mad to think about. And then I'd rewrite The Age of Magical Overthinking, I guess, to like, I don't know, I liked her anecdotes. I wouldn't rewrite those parts obviously because that's like her life, and I also liked all the fun facts and the psychology parts of it. I feel like some of the footnotes were kind of unnecessary. Maybe just like no footnotes. I hate footnotes in books, so I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm gonna say that. Take out the footnotes and just like weave it into the text. Almost done. We have the Traveling Cat Chronicles, Horror House of Perversion, and then Lore Olympus Volume 6. I would reread this hands down. I love Lore Olympus. Thank you to one of my vampies, Jessie, for gifting this to me, surprising me with this book, along with like 2 or 3 other ones. This one I gave 4 stars. It wasn't my favorite of the series. I think my favorite part of this book was the Zoom calls between the gods. I thought that was really clever and creative. It just gets like a little bit redundant because this one had a lot of the petty drama and like who's jealous of who and
oh my god, you're in love with her.
But it's fun. It's a fun series. This is definitely one of my favorite graphic novel series. They're the only graphic novels I own, if that tells you anything. They're just really fun and I just love the art style more than anything. This is a very different art style from Emily Carroll. It's definitely, again, also unmatched. She's up there with the unmatched. Here are the Zoom calls. Ugh, I just love the color coordination. Some pages are really bright and then some are really dark, and I just love flipping through this. Super fun. I love the characters' facial expressions. I heard there's actually a 7th volume coming out in October. I thought the 6th one was the last one, so this was great news. I would burn Horror House of Perversion. Already talked about it, hated it, whatever. And then I would rewrite the Traveling Cat Chronicles. Oh, this book made me cry. I listened to it on audio. I gave it 4 stars because the ending made me cry. There were some dull moments where the guy was just like figuring things out. Oh, we just grow with this guy and this cat, and there were a bunch of scenes where he was just talking to a bunch of people, and I wanted more from the cat, I feel like. So we'll go with that with a rewrite. I have 4 more. So there's gonna be 1 wild card. You Know What You Did by KT Wynn. Mosaic by Catherine McCarthy. Oh god! Dragon Fruit by Micaiah Lucier. I still don't know how to say this author's name, I'm sorry. Fuck, man. I would reread You Know What You Did. It was a fun time. I didn't feel the need to unhaul it. Also, if you're interested in signing up for Aardvark Book Club, I do have a code. It's JAN to get your first box for $4 and free shipping. I love working with them. They're literally the best people I've ever worked with. So there's my little spiel. But I would reread this. Clearly I already forgot about a lot of it, so it's not like I'll remember much to the point of where I'd be annoyed by it. So I think I remember like the key parts. I remember the twist. I feel like I could get more out of it if I read it again though. So would rewrite Dragon Fruit. There was this one scene that was like borderline horror, and I want more of that. That was my favorite scene. It involved this sea dragon and what they found inside the sea dragon. I wanted more of that type of writing. This was just very bland and not too fleshed out. And then Mosaic I would burn because we already talked about it. Oh my gosh, the best for last. list. Obviously, I would reread this. I would also reread Out of Love, and I will buy everything that Hazel Hayes writes because she's incredible. She's an Irish author, so she has that like Irish humor that I love, the Irish writing style. If you like Sally Rooney, definitely check this out. I haven't heard anybody talk about this. Hazel Hayes is so underrated. I don't understand. Okay, my tummy is getting angry with me, so I'm gonna end this video now. If you made it to the end, put either a pink or green emoji in the comments down below. If you've read any of these books and you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Let's chat. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you had a vampy day. Don't forget to do some self-care today, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.